Why don't murderers like butter? Because they're afraid of getting caught spread-handed. Gonna start off with an awful joke, eh? Hi friends, my name's Alex, and I'm happy to kickstart 2025 with a new YouTube channel. I'm hoping to start a new habit of documenting what I've been reading and sharing my thoughts on some cool books. I love reading. It's the single habit I credit with bringing a lot of, well, maybe the most joy to my life. But it's quite a lonely habit. I find it's quite easy to meet people who read, but it's very hard to meet people who are reading the same books as you at the same time. Currently living in Shanghai, and I work quite hard, so I don't really have time to be consistent with the book club. So hoping this will be a good little outlet for me, and hopefully I can build a little community, along with having some good conversations about lots of different cool books. So today I'm diving into a book that's been getting a lot of attention online. I believe mostly due to the striking cover with the yellow and the cow and the bloody fingerprints all over it. Butter, written by Asako Yuzuki, translated by Polly Barton. So the original Japanese version has been around for a few years now. I believe it came out in 2019, but the English version only recently came out last year in 2024. So it's kind of picked up a little bit more steam since then, becoming a lot more accessible to a global audience. This is a story that's it's kind of a mix of a slight thriller, bit of a mystery, linked with some vivid descriptions of food, exploring human emotions through the lens of food. And it's quite rich and layered, as the title Butter suggests. So in the next few minutes, let's unpack what makes Butter such a unique and interesting read. Asako Yuzuki takes us into the world of Rika. She's a journalist investigating quite a famous case involving a woman named Manako Kaji. Manako Kaji is famous for having been accused of manipulating and killing men. But here's the twist. Her alleged weapon is butter. Not really. It's more her cooking skills that have attracted these men and their attention and led them into a dangerous outcome. The story is based on a real killer in Tokyo called the Konkatsu Killer, where a woman met and killed 3 men online in Tokyo between 2007 and 2009. It's a very famous case. I used to live in Tokyo. I remember one of my Japanese friends telling me this story at the pub. But yes, our main character, Rika, as she dives deeper into understanding the world of Manako Kaji, she's exposed to Manako Kaji's sense of decadent cooking, complex emotional history, and almost unapologetic self-indulgence. Manako Kaji is very confident in expressing her very interesting opinions, and the book explores the connection between food and identity and desire, and it kind of makes you guess slightly, is Manako Kaji possibly innocent? Is she truly guilty, or is there more to the story that meets the eye that makes you consider sympathizing with Manako Kaji in some sense? The book overall is a bit of a miss for me, but there's some things I really loved. What I loved about this book, it kept me intrigued all the way through. Despite the slow pace at times, the prose in the book, the way it's written, the descriptions, beautiful. Seriously, if you're on a diet, I definitely don't recommend this book. It made me just want to stop and grab something to eat or go to a restaurant so many times. It's not easy to make food sound this delicious in a book, so I'm quite impressed with the author's ability to do just that. But while this book draws you in with its mouth-watering imagery, it's also a deep dive into especially Japanese society's expectations of women, their bodies and the judgments they face and society's perception of Japanese women. It's mystery linked with social commentary, and it's very captivating as someone who's lived in Japan, quite interested in Japanese culture. I find a lot of similarities between Japan and the UK, which on the face of it, they seem like very different countries, but both being island nations, I found a lot of similarities. And yeah, Japan's relationship with how it views women is a very interesting point for me. But let's think about the heart of Butter, heart of the story, its key themes and ideas. So for me, the biggest theme is indulgence, almost, especially through food and the character of Kaji. Kaji isn't just a great cook. She's a woman who lives unapologetically. Um, she's very able to tap into her desires and act upon them. She takes pleasure in what she eats. She takes pleasure in how she lives and how even she presents herself. She seems to take a real joy in the things she's interested in. But it leads to some questions being asked. Why does society judge women so harshly for embracing their desires? The main hook of the book is, despite Kaji's ability to gain the attention of these men and trap them into a relationship and lead them to dying, Japanese society's perception is, how did a woman who's quite chubby, not the best looking, manage to attract these men? And people wondering, wow, she must have an amazing personality. But yeah, through the lens of food, the book explores broader issues of identity and self-worth. So in contrast to Kaji, Rika, the journalist, the main protagonist, starts questioning her own life, her insecurities, her choices, and how much of her own identity is shaped by the same societal pressures that Kaji faced. Another theme is perception. Manako Kaji's story is shaped by the rumors and judgments of those around her. Is she a femme fatale, manipulating men for personal gain, or is she a victim of society's double standards? This book masterfully plays this kind of ambiguity and making you question these kind of different perceptions going on. But yeah, and obviously the central theme is the intersection between food and relationships. The vivid descriptions about food aren't just for fun. Each meal has a meaning, and they highlight the power of connection, power even, and manipulation. But why we eat the things we do, in a sense, and how they foster belonging and they link back to our identity. It's really interesting to consider how the act of cooking can become a way for people, or the characters in particular, to express love, assert control, or even reveal and kind of exploit vulnerability. These themes really elevate butter for me. It makes it more interesting, just a simple mystery. It's almost like a reflection on societal expectations through the most universal language, something we all share, food. I was really impressed with how well the author was able to explore relationships through the power of food. So let's think about some strengths and weaknesses quickly. One of the biggest strengths is definitely, as previously mentioned, the vivid sensory writing, especially the food. My mouth was watering, even as a vegetarian, by the descriptions of some of the food. From the texture of melting butter to the aroma of a perfectly good cooked meal. She makes you feel like you're really in the kitchen as the characters are making the food. If you want a little bit of a hack, let's say, when you're reading, you can imagine, a Japanese anime being designed around these descriptions. Just give that sense of warmness and homeliness that I definitely got. But I was really impressed how the author doesn't shy away from tackling big issues like societal expectations of women, body image, and let's say, the fine line between indulgence and excess. I'll be thinking about butter for a very long time because of these little layers intertwined throughout the story. I was very, very impressed. But there's a huge weakness with this book. I've watched a few videos of other people reviewing it, and it seems like the most common complaint. The book is too long, I think. The editor should be way more harsh. You could have easily cut out 100 pages of the book. The pace really, really makes it kind of like a chore to finish the book. The opening is quite strong. I was hooked. Around at the middle section and towards the end, it just kept kind of dragging on and on and on in subplots and secondary characters. And by the end of the book, minor spoiler, there's a huge twist, but it comes so late in the novel and the ramifications aren't really explored. It kind of feels like, why wasn't this introduced maybe 100 pages earlier and explored a bit more deeply? The chapters are all about the same length, 25 to 35 pages long. It gives the book a nice sense of consistency, but the plot or the writing just really lost me, or the lack of advancement in the plot. It really took me out, and it made the book quite difficult to finish. I'm one where if I start a book, I'm determined to finish it. So there's a bit of a sunk cost fallacy there. But yeah, I kind of just stopped caring at the end, which is really sad because the opening really hooked me, and I love the themes of the book, and I love the questions it raises. But man, the plot was really slow towards the end, which is a big shame for me. So, do I recommend this book? If you love books that explore Japanese culture and society, that blend genres with a part mystery, slight thriller, part character study, part food memoir, I think if you generally lean towards being interested in those things, I think you'll get a lot of this book. It's a bit of a slow burn. Would I describe it as a slow burn? Oh no, it starts off, it hooks me quite quickly, but then it turns into a very, very slow burn. But it's thought-provoking, and it focuses on themes like identity, desire, Japanese societal expectations. Fans of Japanese literature will especially appreciate Yuzuki's nuanced storytelling and cultural insights. And if you're a foodie, I think this is one of the best books you could possibly read. Exceptional with the descriptions of cooking. Just make sure if you are going to eat, if you're on a diet, it won't help you. It'll just make you want to run to the fridge. But on the other hand, if you're like me, you prefer media that kind of, for lack of a better phrase, respects your time a bit, gets to the meat of the story a bit more, or really gets to advance the plot in quite a good pace. I'd possibly give this one a miss. It can be quite frustrating. But I still encourage you to give it a try. Weirdly, it could surprise you. I didn't love it, but I was intrigued throughout, and that intrigue really kept me going, especially towards the end when I was getting quite frustrated. So, in conclusion, Butter by Asako Yuzuki. It's beautifully written, in particular with its prose and descriptions, thought-provoking, equal parts mystery and meditation on life and relationships through the lens of food. It takes a really seemingly simple concept of food and just runs with it, and is able to use it with a really powerful narrative about identity, indulgence, and judgments placed on women. But sadly and ultimately, its pacing really let it down for me. But I'd love to hear what you think. If you read it or if you've been planning to, share your thoughts in the comments below. And I hope, let's discuss, let's learn from each other. I'm really curious to see what other people heard about this book. It seems to be quite split online. Some people really enjoyed it. Some others felt the pacing, I think like me, really let it down in the end. But thank you for watching. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel please, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss future reviews. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.